This took a while to make. Salutations, everyone. I'm Niru and welcome to another review show that I had never titled yet. It's always titled Niru at the Movies, which is like, as I said before in countless review videos, is a review thing is the review name I gave to a Facebook page that I had long ago when I used to use Facebook and just post reviews of movies that came out. The last movie I did, I think, was the movie Us, or I think it was either Spider-Verse or Us that I was reviewing. That was the last of my reviews that I did when I think when it was like, 2019, I think? Yeah. But, so anyway, we're here to talk about Dial of Destiny. Ugh, God. Before I get started, I had a love for Indiana Jones since Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. That's weird, I know. I saw a trailer of the movie, was very invested. I recognized Harrison Ford because I watched Star Wars, and I was very curious to wonder what Indiana Jones was. And I started watching the movies on a TV channel that played them all three of them at the time. And I enjoyed them when I was a little kid. I thought they were fun. I loved the adventures. I loved the character, the iconic music and everything. I've heard the theme song before, and I never knew where it was from until I finally saw, the movies. And I did enjoy Kingdom of the Crystal Skull when I was a kid. And I watched it recently, and I still think it's a good movie. I'm sorry. I still think Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is a good movie. It's not one of the best, but it is good. Dial of Destiny. Is it bad? Is it trash? Is it awful? Well, I'm here to tell you it's fine. Like, it's not good, nor is it that bad. It's treading a middle road for me, a 5.9 at best. I already gave out what my review score is for this movie, but that's what it is. Middle of the road. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. But it's certainly not the best. It's pointless. It is a very pointless sequel that shouldn't have ever been made. People will say that about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It was a pointless sequel that shouldn't have been made. And people will ignore that movie and say that there was a perfect trilogy. And that's it. And Dial of Destiny, I would say, is the most pointless one out of all the Indiana Jones films. Harrison Ford has said that he wanted a definitive conclusion to Indiana Jones, something that he can be proud of and okay with before, he's too old to play the character, which he already is, but whatever. And this is what he considers to be his definitive conclusion. This is what he feels is the best ending that he wanted for the films. And to me, I think he is sorta right. And by sorta right, I can tell you this. I like the beginning of the movie, and I did like a little bit, not all of it, but some of the ending to the movie as well. And he is not wrong completely, but when I saw the ending to the movie, I was like, okay, look, we already had a nice conclusion with these two, and that was the end of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And I'll get to the spoilers after I rant about this. This Dial of Destiny. I was very reluctant about this movie because Spielberg wasn't at the helm directing this. Lucas wasn't writing the script for this either. David Koepp, who wrote the screenplay for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, he returned to be one of the writers of the movie Dial of Destiny. And I said one of the writers. This movie had so many cooks in the kitchen and it got lost in its way. Most definitely. Like there was two people named Butterworth. Yeah, there's two people named Buttersworth in this fucking movie, in the fucking screenplay. I will get to that later. I don't know who the fuck these guys are, but some people say they're the blame for this movie, and maybe they're right. I don't know what the Butterworth brothers may wrote in the past. I don't know what they have created. All I know is David Koepp, which he wrote the script for, Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man movie that Sam Raimi directed. I only know that about him. And I can tell that some people say that David Koepp isn't the best with dialogue when it comes to movies like this, like Spider-Man or Indiana Jones, which sometimes the dialogue can be silly. With Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, Spider-Man leaned heavily on it with the silly dialogue. So some people don't ask him to return back for sequels, but he did in this. And I don't know. The script isn't all that bad, and I'm talking about the story, like like an artifact that can take you back to the past. I mean, that sounds interesting enough, but also it went on a Pirates of the Caribbean complex route, which I thought was kind of odd. I don't know why. And before you're wondering, what do I mean by Pirates of the Caribbean complexity of this dial? Well, Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, it was like, we're gonna find the Fountain of Youth, but it isn't just enough to just drink the water from the Fountain of Youth. No, you have to do so many steps before you can drink eternal life. You need the fucking tear of a mermaid, 2 chalices, because apparently it's not technically the Fountain of Youth. It's the Fountain of, I'm going to find an unwilling participant to drink a chalice that doesn't have a mermaid's tear in it so I can steal their life force so I can have eternal youth. Like, huh? And the Dial of Destiny, it's not time travel. It's math. No, really, it's math. Like, if you solve this complex equation and these coordinates that you have to solve with the dial, you will find certain fissures of time to go and take you to the fucking the time period you want to go to, which is odd. So you're telling me these fissures of time are like scattered across the world and you can just find them as long as you have the dial, which is crazy when you think about it. Do you think that the people in the Twilight Zone episode, when they were on the airplane, did they came across a fissure of time and then they suddenly, for some reason, got into the prehistoric times or travel back to 1912 or something? Like, That's just weird. Like you're telling like it's weird to think like some people so, like you're telling me someone could just like randomly stumble across a fissure of time any anywhere they go, and then all of a sudden they are back in a different time period, like all of a sudden, and they don't know how, and they lose their chance to escape because the portal will close eventually, which is odd. I thought it was too complex, but also it's like, I never question it because whatever. If I question logic in an Indiana Jones movie, I'm gonna have a bad time. And this movie had an interesting thing when they use the dial because they do go back in a certain point of time in the movie. And I thought it was interesting. I thought it was silly, but I thought I actually dig it because I have seen movies like that before back in the 2000s where someone goes into the past and they have like, modern stuff with them to help them stop some evil bad guy at the end to help civilization in the past, which is silly, but I like it. I mean, I've seen it in Army of Darkness, and that worked out perfectly fine. Um, Here it's okay. I feel like the whole dial stuff hasn't been done well, because I feel like there should have been some point. Like Indy has like a thing with artifacts um most of the time in movies. Like Last Crusade, he was forced to find the Grail because again, he wanted to save his father. Temple of Doom, he was just gonna get the Sharkara stones for fortune and glory until he changed his mind and gave the stone to the village that needed it the most. Raiders of the Lost Ark, he did wanted the Ark of the Covenant, and he would think it would be a nice addition to a museum, and then realizes it's a horrible thing that shouldn't be unearthed and shouldn't be seen by people because it murdered a bunch of Nazis, and fears that innocent people will get murdered too if they open that arc as well. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, again, just like you know, Last Crusade, he only did it to save a friend of his, and didn't get the treasure at the end, but learned a lesson of knowledge and family in the end. Here, he just wants the dial just to stop his goddaughter, um, from using it. But I feel like just like with the Grail, with Indy wanting to get it, but eventually letting it go because he finally got recognition from his father. Um, he, I really wish that if he had the dial, I wanted him to do a certain thing, which I'll get to later, that he should have had that temptation for, but he didn't. And I thought, well, damn, because the movie abruptly stops. By the way, like it just stops. It doesn't technically end. It's just a punch in the face, which literally it is. And I should spoil things right now. So if you want to see the movie, which you probably don't want to, or you're probably someone that hates not Temple of Doom. Well, there are people who hate Temple of Doom, which shocks me. But if you don't want to see it, it's fine. If you just like to watch the original trilogy and just be happy with it, cool. Okay. You sitting? You're listening? The spoilers? Okay. So, Mutt Williams, the character played by Shia LaBeouf, he gets killed because he enlisted to be a soldier in war, and he got killed in war. He got killed in battle, and Indy and Marion divorced because their son died, and Andy is a bitter old man, which destroys everything about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull from the last ending, from Indiana Jones becoming the dean of the college he works at, to him being married to Marion, and to having his son, and having a nice happy life together as a family. Like, everything got destroyed in the beginning, like the net like in the as soon as it jumps to how many years later, in 1969, where Indy is a bitter fat old man and all wrinkly, 80 years old, drunk off his ass, and retiring in the middle of the semester, which is stupid. Like, he says he's trying to teach these kids about, like, Archimedes and such and whatever, and these kids are just distracted because the astronauts are landing on the moon, and they don't give a shit about the past. They give a shit about the history and the future. And it is, like, stupid. He's retiring before the kids have to take the final. Like, what teacher does that? I had a history teacher in high school who was going to retire. His last year was my last year of high school, and he retired when the whole entire, like, school year was over. Like, what professor retires in the middle of the fucking school year? Like, that doesn't make sense, honestly. Like, what? And especially during the moon landing, it's weird. I never understood that, but whatever. He retired, and he's, like, bitter, and he's like, whatever, he doesn't care. He lives in New York now, which, of course, every hero has to live in New York at this point. And that's it. He's just bitter old man Indy until his goddaughter comes along and wants the dial, which you think. And let me tell you this, Phoebe Waller-Bridge wasn't this bad in this movie. However, it's only the only time she's good is when I see her do stuff that involves archaeology, history, and solving puzzles and shit in the movie. That's the only time I've seen her good in this film. The rest of the times are awful. And do I hate Phoebe Waller-Bridge? Not really. I liked her as L3 in the Solo movie. I liked her in that. And seeing her do all, like, the archaeology stuff, solving puzzles, and even trying to solve the clues, trying to find where the next piece of the dial is, I had my opinion change about her when I was fearing her becoming the next Lara Croft, the next Tomb Raider. She does have that edge about her that makes me think she would be good as Lara Croft. She has the attitude. She has the personality that Laura has. And I'm mainly talking about the Lara Croft in the original games and who Angelina Jolie played in the first two live action movies. Like, she's got that. I'm not sure about the action and physical stuff yet. We'll cross that bridge when we see a trailer or see the actual final product of the movie or TV series she's working on. And hopefully the script is good. And hopefully they write Laura perfect in that film. Because if they don't, yikes. But hopefully, but so far, what I'm seeing from her in this movie, I'm like, she could be good as Tomb Raider. Now, that's my opinion. Most people will disagree, saying, no, fuck her. But hey, I'm honestly open to the idea of her being Laura after seeing this, thinking, she might be decent, she might be okay. Let's not jinx it yet. But most of the time, I just hate her because at first she seemed nice. She seemed like a good character with and interacting with Indy very well in the movie and seeing like she has a passion for archaeology. But then it turns out she's just a petty thief and she won the dial just to sell it, which is nothing but constant bickering, constant like arguing with Indy throughout the entire film. It was nothing but that. There was no chemistry between them that felt genuine, that felt passionate, dramatic, or caring. It just felt like two people just yelling and hating each other, and all of a sudden they give a shit about each other at the end of the movie, which doesn't make sense because constantly the whole time they done nothing but argue, but until Indiana Jones gets shot in the fucking shoulder, all of a sudden she's like, oh my god, are you okay? And then she tries to save him. I'm like, what just happened? And she's like, I'm here to rescue you. When they go into the Fissure of Time, and then they go into the Roman takeover that Archimedes was a part of, and then they just go back in time, and then she has to save him. Like, because there was a stupid ending. Andy says he wants to stay. He's like, screw it. I might as well die here in the past. And then Helena's like, no, you can't do that, Indy. We need you in the future. Now, that would have been a nice, beautiful, genuine moment. The lines that Phoebe Waller-Bridge said about like he needs to go back to his time, and you need to focus on your time, your destiny, your moment in the now, what you're doing right now. That was a nice line, yet I didn't feel any emotion because these two have been at each other's throats throughout the entire film, and it just doesn't come off as genuine at all. Yet I'm clearly blind because a lot of people saw this movie as pure cinema, and they thought that the dialogue and the whole entire movie was perfect. Well, I saw it as too fucking long of a movie. And then Indy doesn't listen to Helena, so Helena punches him in the face, and then he's back in his apartment, and then he rekindles his relationship with Marion, and the movie ends. Like that. Ends immediately, abruptly. It just stops. Like, no conversation, no heart-to-heart moment with him and Marion. I mean, yeah, they recreate the scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark of, where does it hurt? Well, damn it, Indy, where does it not hurt? Here, and then points at the lips and says here, and then they kiss. And that's it. Like, no conversation, no way of doing like a nice like talk about why Marion's there to help Indy, and has she gotten over her son's death, or has Indy said anything like a heartfelt conversation about like, because look, if Indy said like he wanted to stay with Archimedes so he can learn about the fissures of time and learn about continental drift and such, right? Because he said the continental drift is the reason why they went back to the wrong time period in the movie, because the villain played by Mads Mikkelsen was supposed to go back in time to 1939, 38 or something, I think. And because he wanted to kill Hitler and become the leader of the Nazis because he saw what mistakes that Hitler made, and he wanted to say, I'm not going to make the same mistakes he did, which I don't know. Hitler had limited resources, and the Axis powers were clearly outnumbered because the Allies had more resources, more countries on their fucking side. So I don't know how freaking this villain that I can't even remember his name, just like Mads Mikkelsen, how is he going to fix what Hitler did in the movie? Because at this point, it's like, how do you stop it? How do you stop the mistakes that he did? Like, are you gonna somehow, like, I feel like if you want to stop the mistakes that Hitler did, try to go and do something more strategic, because I get that of knowing what to do, because clearly they don't know what they're doing. Like, I feel like the villain hasn't thought out this plan at all. Like, Jesus Christ. And I felt like Indy should have had that moment where he would learn with Archimedes and say, if I learn from him, Helena, I can find out which time period, which fissure of time to go to stop my son from enlisting in war. And that would have been a moment where I'd be like, that makes sense why he wants to stay, so he can learn about the dial from Archimedes. And then you would see him wanting to stay. And then that will give Helena the push to punch him and stop him from doing that. Like, I would have enjoyed that better. And then Indy will go to Marion like, I wanted to save her son, but I can't. I went back in time and I wanted to. And then, he would have said that he wanted to try to. But maybe Marion would be the voice of reason and say, like, you can't fix what's already been done. At least we can appreciate the times we spent with him when he was around, Like, that's what could have happened. That's what she could have said, and Indy can have some, some closure. Because it didn't feel like there was no closure between him and Marion. I feel like those wounds are still open about the whole son being dead thing, because at that point, Mutt being killed in war felt like the most throwaway line ever. Like, it felt like it was nothing. He was on the boat, tells Helena about his son dead, and then never mentioned again throughout the entire fucking movie. Not even with Marion, not even with anyone. It was just, I said it on the boat, I don't need to mention Shia LaBeouf again. Like, what the fuck? Stupid. And I feel like there could have been better things. Not only that, I feel like ever since people leaked the story plot about Indiana Jones was gonna die in this movie, it looks like they rewrote the script or they reshot that scene with Helena and Indy and then just added the whole, like, what do? We have a little bit of time left before the movie has to come out, and they're like, fuck it, just have her punch him in the face and then he'll be back in his apartment, and that's it. Like, Marion probably, like, having the actor Karen Allen back as Marion was probably an afterthought because people were all like, oh, that's a stupid ending. Fuck that ending. I don't want Helena to be the next Indiana Jones. And then James Mangold saying, like, hey, don't listen to what the haters are saying. Meanwhile, secretly, James Mangold's like, we need to change that fucking ending or else people are going to get pissed. And then that's what happened. That's what I'm assuming what happened. Like, test audience probably saw the original ending where Indy dies, and then everybody goes ballistic when it gets leaked online. What happens? Like, has to be that ending felt rushed. Like they already had a planned conclusion for ending, and then they had to change it right away when the backlash of that ending happened, and they had to change it. And every time I watched that scene, like I saw the movie twice, every time I saw that scene where he gets punched in the face, crowd in the audience, they laugh. And let me tell you this, that is the only time these motherfuckers laughed in this movie theater. Yeah, like that's it. And then, like, and then like as soon as he gets punched in the face, people are like, ha 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 ha, and I'm sitting here silent, like, how is that funny? I audibly said this while the credits were rolling. I yelled out in the theater, do not like. I really said that. Second time I watched it, I warmed up, sorta. Like, I kind of warmed up to some scenes I was displeased with. Like, as much as I hated the de-aged Indy, like the de-aged, obviously CGI looking young Harrison Ford, I took a look back thinking about, you know, Jeff Bridges and Tron Legacy, Grand Moff Tarkin, and fucking Rogue One. I start thinking back and saying, you know, this one is better than those de-aging effects. Like, I thought at least that one was at least better, because for moments it does look nice. Like, the de-aging does look cool, it does look slick, but most of the time it looks like a video game character. Like, this is the new Bethesda Indiana Jones game that's going to come out, and I'm like waiting to press X on my controller to jump and use my whip, and that's it. And also, they couldn't AI Harrison Ford's voice like they did with James Earl Jones, like they did with Mark Hamill when it came to Mandalorian. Like, that's weird, because that looks like a young Harrison Ford, but the voice that's coming out is 80-year-old Harrison Ford trying to sound like his younger self, which doesn't work. Now, that's my nitpick, but the beginning intro of the movie felt like an Indiana Jones film. It really did. Like, from using one of the logos to form into something else in the movie, like every Indiana Jones film. It wasn't the Paramount logo. They didn't go and make the Paramount logo, like make the mountain form into something else, like a mountain in the distance in a jungle, or the shape of edge of a mountain on a gong, or the third movie where it was in Utah and they had a mountain there as well, or the fourth movie, which was a fucking Gopher Hill for some reason. No, it was the Lucasfilm logo, and they used that to look like the slide lock on a door that you see in bathrooms, I think. And I was like, oh, okay. At first I didn't like it, but as I warmed up to it, I was like, you know what? I like it now. But if I had it my way, it would be the Lucasfilm logo first, the Walt Disney logo first, and then the Paramount Pictures logo last. just my opinion, but whatever. Um, and it was a good intro to the movie. Like I got hyped, I got amped. Like the first time around, I was like bitter. Second time around, I was like, you know what? This is the funnest part of the movie. I do like this. And then it ended, and then we see bitter old man Ford just being angry about everything. And let me tell you this, once the adventure starts, it's not interesting at all. Like, the whole objective seems interesting, but when the characters and the pacing are fucking terrible, it doesn't keep your interest long. And that's the problem I have with it. It's the runtime, and the energy feels like it starts to die down on you. Say what you want about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Spielberg knew how to keep your focus, your attention, your interest on what the characters are saying, doing, and it usually helps with what with what Spielberg does when he invokes those emotions and get the reactions that he wants for the audience to feel when he made Crystal Skull, and of course the better trilogy of movies that came out before those two films. And he knew what to do with the character, and he knew how to pace it well. I'm not taking offense to James Mangold. Dude made the Wolverine. Dude made Logan. Like, two great Wolverine movies, and like a couple of other films I've seen by James Mangold that I like also, like 310 to Yuma, and I'm trying to remember the other movie I liked that he did. Identity, the serial killer who done it film that he did that was pretty good. Um and he has made a lot of good movies in the past. And if I have to say, from the filmography that he had that I've watched, this is his weakest one out of all of them, honestly. And he did capture the look, not the feel, but well, the first 20 minutes of the movie, he did capture the feel of Indiana Jones, but the latter half, it just felt like you're watching nothing half the time, and it just feels eh. Even the chase scenes don't feel that great. Like, I am a sucker for practical and actual stuff actually there being destroyed, or something that's actually being done and it's not a CGI effect. But the movie, for the rest of the time, it all feels fake. And that's saying something when Kingdom of the Crystal Skull had clear, obvious CGI, like in its, third act, which even then, even that third act, even though that was CGI, that whole chase scene in the jungle, the swinging with the monkeys and all that, somehow it felt like there was an impact. Like you felt like you were actually there. Well, not actually there. I think the whole chase scene in the jungle was more akin to like a theme park ride. You have fun with it, you feel the energy, you're having a good time. But then again, that's a lot of chases that I liked with Indiana Jones. I mean, some are like more brutal and more terrifying, like in Raiders or Last Crusade, where they're trying to stop like the tank and trying to save his father and Marcus, and trying to get the journal back and trying to find the Grail. Like, that ones were more tenser scenes that made you like, oh, I'm worried for Indy. Well, Temple of Doom, its chase scene with the mine cart and the chase scene in the jungle felt like entertaining theme park rides, which are good. Now, I would have taken any of the latter. I would have taken an enjoyable theme park ride or a tense scene where it's like your life is on the line if this shit happens, you know? Like that stuff that happened in Raiders and in Last Crusade. That I thought would have been those nice tense moments I would have want. But none of them felt tense. None of them felt over the top silly at all either. They just felt, like every chase scene that tries to mimic Spielberg but ultimately fails at it. Like there's a chase scene in Tangier. That chase scene in Tangier, it had the makings of something good, but it falls under. And I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. And yeah, I know, like, wow, Wolf, you're being a bit like butthurt about this. No, I'm not, because this movie had so many things that they could have done, that they could have do to make the chase scenes more interesting, or the chase scenes more like fun or tense even, but none do at all in this movie to grab your interest of it being tense. Even when the chase scene where Helena is trying to save Indy, like, him being on the plane, he's bleeding out, he's losing a lot of blood, and Helena is trying to save him. She's on a motorbike chasing the plane and trying to catch it. That should be a tense scene. But the reason why it doesn't work as that tense scene is because there is no like connection you had with Helena and Indy that showed that they are now, kind to each other at all. Like, save with Last Crusade with Indy and his dad, Henry Jones Sr. Now, they had a lot of like bickering and arguing as well, but there were some genuine, kinder moments where they actually give a shit about each other that, show that they have a complicated relationship, but you can tell they do care about each other still, despite how tense that relationship is. I don't feel any of that with Helena and fucking Indy at all. I just see two people that want to get away from each other. One that just wants fucking money. One that just wants the dial back just because, he wants to see this through the end. But also, knows that that thing belongs in a fucking museum and Helena is doing something stupid, being over her head. And that's it with what I got from them. At least with Indy and Mutt, they weren't bickering and being bitchy at each other. I mean, sure, Mutt was a bit tense and such, but he learned with Indy along the way on things where don't take what I say literally, or don't try to get butthurt on everything I say, kid, or whatever. Or, him telling him, like, hey, don't let anyone tell you what you can't do as long as you're happy. That's advice he gave him. And those two worked well off each other. They weren't like bickering a lot as well in that movie. They actually had some strong connections with each other and actually working together and, being being and working well off each other. And I thought they did great. I mean, yeah, they argued when they found out, they are related because that's his son, but at least things got, good. They repaired their relationship. I mean, it kind of felt a bit rushed, but at the point, it still felt like they gave a shit about each other, at least, unlike, Helena and Indy. I know, weird that I'm saying this, like, that saying that, oh, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull did something better than fucking Dial of Destiny. Well, because I like the movie. I like that movie more than this. And I just don't like the relationship. The kid is not that bad. He is basically, just another short round. Obviously, a short round for this generation, I guess. The kid isn't that bad. He does have a good heart in him at times. I do like the scenes with him learning how to fly a plane just by someone teaching him in a restaurant, and he's just using like stuff that he like a coasters as the dials and the fuel gauge and everything that you see in the cockpit, and using like the champagne bottle that's in like the bucket of ice as like the lever to go and fly and move faster and forward. At least I did like that he was learning how to fly, and then it pays off at the end of the movie. And I did like him and Helena's relationship a little bit when you see them actually, care for one another. And I did like that she praised him that when he was so excited when he actually flew a plane. Like that was nice. That was sweet. But most interactions like that, I wish there were more of and less of being greedy bastards that just want money and nothing else. Like, yeah, I don't like that. And at the moments I do like are the indie moments where he gets to meet with old friends. Like again, Marion, Sala, like seeing John Reese Davis as Sala again, that was pretty cool. I thought that was awesome. I wish we had more of him, but we didn't. Just like how I wish that Ki Hua Kwan was, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, was back as short round, but he's older and then he travels with Indy. Like, somehow travel with him. And because, short round was basically a surrogate son for Indy, and he was that surrogate dad for short round as well. Like, I would have wanted them to come back together. I would have wanted them to reconcile and like reunite, and it could have helped the basis of the plot about losing his son, but at least he will know that there is someone for him that is worth living for and worth staying in his own time for. But they didn't do that in this film. They just instead say, Goddaughter, we don't need to bring back Short Round. Like, just random ass goddaughter of a character we're just now being introduced in the movie. No one else, no one that has a clear big connection with. I feel more of a connection to seeing Key and Harrison like on the premiere red carpet of Dial of Destiny, and then Key hugs Harrison Ford during an interview and having a nice time with him, and Harrison having a genuine smile and Key having a nice genuine reaction seeing him again. It was like seeing those two characters reunite again, and we don't get to see that in the film, which is its biggest flaw that brings the movie down. It's the relationship with the characters and the pacing is what bring this film to a screeching halt that makes it a slog to get through. And you're wondering to me, how the fuck is this 5.9, Wolf? Why is this 5.9? If you hated this, if you hated that, why give it a 5.9? Because it actually isn't that bad, and I can see the passion with this film. James Mangold clearly enjoys the Indiana Jones movies, but then again, like Abrams, he tries to deny that the, other movie happened. Well, not denying it completely, which is good. I'm glad he didn't deny it completely. He wanted to at least, unlike Abrams, mind you, try to find a way to make a final movie. And acknowledge that the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull film existed, which he does, which I'm okay with. Hell, he acknowledges a few movies. I think he acknowledges Raiders. He acknowledges Temple of Doom because Indy makes a reference to Temple of Doom as well, and also Last Crusade. I think because he's wearing his father's watch, uh, and also Kingdom of the Crystal Skull because again they mention him being married to Marianne, his son, because at least they acknowledge that, unlike hack J.J. Abrams. Mangold clearly had a passion. He clearly has a love for Indiana Jones, and he's not trying to recreate Raiders of the Lost Ark. He's not trying to recreate Temple of Doom, Last Crusade, or any other Indiana Jones movie. He's just making his own film and making a definitive conclusion in his eyes for Indiana Jones. He actually tries to make something original here, which I commend him for. Was it a good effort? In my opinion, yes, it was a good effort. There is good things to like about this movie. Harrison Ford's performance, even the actors' performances, even if it gets degrading and annoying, I do like the actors in this movie. Hell, I was excited to see Antonio Banderas in this film until they fucking killed him off immediately. I enjoyed the actors' performances, but I also enjoy Harrison Ford's performance as Indiana Jones, a man that feels like he lost everything, and then he starts to who feels like he has no purpose in the world until he finds purpose once again. I wish that that whole character arc of Indy coming to terms with his age and also learning that he does still have a purpose in the world, despite if the world doesn't remember him for what he was back in the day. I really wish that character arc was done perfectly. It's not written poorly with how they set it up, which I like, but it felt like you could have done better. And that's what I thought. It could have done better. It's not Force Awakens. It's definitely not Rise of Skywalker. This movie does something honestly better than the sequel trilogy. And that's no cap. That's no joke at all. It may not be the best. It may be something that I would probably never watch again, but I wouldn't say it's the worst. Hands down, it's not. It's not the best. It is definitely one of the weakest, but it at least tried. And that's what I can just say about it. At least tried. I don't care if you don't want to watch it. I don't care whatever you think of me saying that what I'm saying is weird and that my score is a bit too high. But hey, this movie at least didn't do something that Force Awakens did to me, that Rise of Skywalker did to me. This movie at least didn't make me leave out the theater pissed, screaming at the gods and saying, fuck this film. No. It actually had me saying, I didn't particularly like it, but there are some things that I enjoy about it. Like, I walked out of theaters hating a movie. Like, the last movie I walked out of in the theater pissed off at, definitely Rise of Skywalker. But I think the last one that takes the cake also, for recently is Thor: Love and Thunder. I walked out pissed. But this movie didn't. what I thought was gonna be a trash film. It just was just an it's fine. It's not gonna hurt anybody film. It's just a film that I will say is pointless. And if I'm having an Indiana Jones marathon, I'm just gonna stop at number 4 because that's my definitive conclusion of the Indy franchise, not Dial of Destiny. It could have been something great, but sadly falls a bit flat. 5.9 is still my score. I still enjoy some of this movie for what it did, even the silly time travel aspect. And yeah, I didn't talk about the villain, which I think the villain was not that great. The moment where you believe like Irene Spalko from Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, holy shit, I can remember her name more than I can remember Mads Mikkelsen's character's name. Let's see if I can list the villains' names from each Indiana Jones film by memory. There was Belloc in Raiders. There was Molaram in Temple of Doom. There was, what's his name? Donovan and Elsa and that gazpacho Nazi guy that was also in Blues Brothers as a neo-Nazi. No, not neo-Nazi. Illinois Nazis. That's what they were. Yeah. Like, I remember them. I just don't remember what the fuck Mads Mikkelsen's villain name is because he was not that interesting. All he wanted to do was just, I'm going to kill Hitler and win World War II. And that's it. It makes me laugh thinking, is Mads Mikkelsen gonna go and Wolfenstein this shit? He's gonna get technology to stop the Americans, and he's gonna be like, now it's gonna be like Wolfenstein New Order, like he has a copy of the game. If you want to know how bad this movie is, Hideo Kojima just said he watched the movie. And if I know Hideo Kojima reviews that I learned about recently, when he only says that he watched a movie, it means he doesn't like it. If he doesn't talk about how good the movie is or what he enjoyed about it, then it was bad. He hated Super Mario Brothers. He hated this. And he hated it even though his bae Mads Mikkelsen is in the movie. I don't recognize him. I didn't understood Mads Mikkelsen at all. I didn't care. I didn't care about Boyd Holbrook. I don't think I gave a shit about any Boyd Holbrook character that that actor has played. Boyd Holbrook played the villain in fucking one of the villains in Logan. He was that dude that had the autistic son in the Predator movie, the one where the predators think autism was the next step in evolution. And now he's just this random ass character that I just like to call guy with gun. And that's what he is. He's just guy with gun. He just shoots a gun, and that's his character. He shoots a gun. And he shoots a gun in like fucking each scene he's in. Well, not every scene he's in, but every time I see him in the movie, he's holding a fucking gun. Like, he always has this one gun in his hand in each scene, and he's like, don't move, I got a gun. And that's it. That's all his character is. I shoot gun. I fire gun. I have gun. That's it. It's not good. Villains were lackluster. What can I say? Not only that, the stupid thing that with the movie that they don't establish is how the fuck these characters find the heroes in the movie. I mean, the second time, like when they find them in the second go around, I get it. They had the help of the CIA at first, but when they were like on the boat and they found him and Antonio Banderas, and they're like on the boat and it's like, I found you, Indy. I'm like, how the fuck did he found them? in the middle of the ocean. Like, did they had a clue? Did they know where this next clue to finding the dial, the next half of the dial was here? It's never explained. And also, when freaking Helena gives them fake coordinates where the next piece of the dial is, they drive off of the boat, explode the boat that the Nazis were in, and then just ride off in the distance. And for some reason, somehow, Mads Mikkelsen has the power of binoculars on his hand to see which direction they were going. And then for somehow he knew by the direction they were going, they weren't going to the location that she said, they were going to a different location. And somehow, by sheer dumb luck, they found them and kidnapped the kid. And I was like, how the fuck did you find them? And then Boyd Holbrook's all here like, I got gun, and then points at it at the kid. I'm like, God damn it, this movie. So yeah, Dial of Destiny, is it worth going and seeing the theater? No. Is it worth go if it's worth renting on DVD or Blu-ray, renting it on digital and just watching it for a little bit? Probably get friends over or family over if you live with your family. Sit on the couch with your big 4K TV or whatever TV you have, speakers on, popcorn at the ready, drink in hand, and watching the film, then yes, it is worth watching, but only when it's on digital streaming platforms or whatever. So yeah, that's my take. Is it worth seeing in the theater just to hear that sweet Indiana Jones theme song in the huge theater speakers again? Honestly, yes, because John Williams said this was his last score he's gonna do. From what I've heard of, since he is 90 something years old now, and man, John Williams never disappoints. Every time I hear a score from John Williams, it's beautiful. Even the sequel trilogy, he made a great score that went to waste because of that sequel trilogy, but he made fantastic scores for those movies. And he made a fantastic score with Dial of Destiny, which I feel at least had a purpose and at least had more love and recognition than in the sequel trilogy, sadly. And I think John did a great job. And if this is his final score, and he is retiring, I salute to that man because I grew up with the scores he made when the prequel trilogy was still out in theaters and they were still being made. And John Williams was also scoring for other movies. He scored for Harry Potter, which I think he made a great theme song for that franchise as well. Even when he wasn't the composer for the next other few movies, the first 3 movies he did, he left a great impact with the composers that came after him. And yeah, he did great. I love the man. I'm going to be sad to see him go and sad to see him pass away. But hey, 90 something years old and has an entire catalog of scores he's made and a legacy that he left behind. The man is amazing. I love John. I would definitely listen to this score. If I ever have Spotify again, I would definitely listen to this score, blasting it while I'm like probably taking a walk or a jog or something, hearing that music. I always like to hear movie scores sometimes. I would love to hear that score. He is a great man. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Tomorrow, I'm guessing, is going to be the next episode of RE6. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Ciao, darlings. Remember, you are loved. Next time, I'm probably going to talk about The Flash or Spider-Man. Ciao.
Ow, ow, ow! Ow! Ow!